And welcome to another episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. We got a lot to talk about on our plate this week, including the Lions getting embarrassed, the Michigan Wolverines beating Ohio State for the third time in a row, the Big Ten championship game coming up, the Wings signing Patrick Kane, and of course, the Tigers signing Kenta Maeda from the Minnesota Twins and more. But first, the Lions, they fall behind 20-6 in the first quarter, and they come back but fall short to the Green Bay Packers 29-22. Now, first quarter, everything was like going wrong on both sides of the ball for the Lions.
Tell me about it.
The Packers are not the Chicago Bears, as Urinating Tree would point out. You pointed out to us all on Twitter. So, I mean, that's true out there.
I mean, it was a bad sign from the very first opening play. When you remember when Love connected with Christian Watson on that deep bomb down the field. First and foremost, that ball looked underthrown. I thought, okay, this is an easy potential pick.
Yeah,
and
it was.
Somehow it didn't end up as an interception. Instead, it ended up as a completion for Green Bay, and that just got the ball rolling for them offensively.
Yeah, I mean, it was in double coverage. You just got to play the ball if you're the secondary. I mean, the pass rush.
Yeah, I think that was Tracy Walker and Cam Sutton on that one. I was surprised they both let that one get by them on that one because they were tracking the ball.
It's not the first time that I've seen them let a deep pass go by like that.
Well, I won't say go by.
It's been done like that hundreds of times.
I can't say it went by them because they were tracking it like a center fielder. But I'm just surprised they weren't able to come up with it like that. They just let Watson. Now, granted, credit to Watson. He physically, he outmuscled both guys, especially Sutton on that play to grab it. But it was just an indicator of how things were going to go for the Lions all day. And then Goff didn't make things better with apparently developing fumbleitis in the first quarter, including one of those fumbles being picked up for a scoop and score. So that was ugh.
Yeah, I know. Lions had a terrible first half overall, but especially the first quarter. They tried to come back, but they allowed an insurance touchdown. Yet the Packers either missed the extra point or went for two and failed.
Well, let's talk about how they were even put them in that position to set up that touchdown. Because just like what we saw with Jared Goff with his turnovers, by the way, and one of those being leading directly to Packer points, you might as well say that this decision that the Lions had done early in the second half not only directly led to Packer points, it essentially put the game out of reach. And that, of course, was for some reason Dan Campbell deciding to try a fake punt on 4th and 5
in deep your own territory,
less and inside his own 20-yard line. Now, look, I got nothing but love for MCDC. I love his aggression. I love the fact that he goes for it on 4th down whenever and wherever possible. And I even love the fact that he pulled out the fake punt against Kansas City because, honestly, no one was expecting it. And in that situation, it called for it. This situation, it did not call for it. With the fact that your defense has been playing their asses off because your offense, primarily your quarterback, has been putting them in bad field position constantly with his turnover and horrible display of protecting the football. Because of that allowed Green Bay to get to the lead that they had. But still, the defense balled out. But in terms of not giving up as many points as you thought they would have given up. And the reason why they gave up that touchdown, because like I said, very short field position, and it helps when you try to run a fake punt on 4th and 5 inside your 20. That just made no sense at all. And I'm pretty sure Dan Campbell knows that. Right, just punt it. Because guess what? Your defense was playing motivated. They played lights out. They played lights out that whole second half. After that touchdown, they didn't give up a single damn point. So, frankly, this was still a very much winnable game if the Lions didn't shoot themselves continuously in the foot.
Yeah, it's almost like the entire game was like a one-sided clown show or something like that.
The whole game. I mean, when you tried to do the hope spot, trying to come back in the third quarter, then you go for it again on 4th and 5, and then, oh, by the way, yeah, here comes Rashawn Gary let's not forget, last year at Ford Field against the Lions, that's where he tore his ACL. 1 year later, he returns to Ford Field and has an absolute monster of a game. 3 sacks, forced fumble, strip sack on Jared Goff. He made Taylor Decker look like an amateur. And frankly, I will take that as solace, as being more of an omen as to what I was going to be seeing on Saturday. But we'll begin into that later on. I mean, again, Rashawn Gary, the Michigan Wolverine, dominating Taylor Decker, the Ohio State Buckeye. I'll take it's Pyrrhic. It's Pyrrhic, but I would have accepted that omen knowing full well what was lying in store for me potentially on Saturday. And again, like I said, we'll get to that later, but I digress. Back here to Detroit. Rashawn Gary did a phenomenal job, and that speaks to another point. Where was the defensive line once again? And I know people will point the hefty amount of blame at Aiden Hutchinson because
he usually does a good job.
But Aiden usually, to his credit, he is doing whatever he can because week in and week out, offensive coordinator after offensive coordinator are what they are strategizing. They are game planning and on trying to figure ways to take 97 out of the game, neutralize him. And for guess what? The reason why that's also been helping is because no one else on the defensive line is stepping up outside of maybe Ali McNeil. But he's only one player. Where's John Kaminsky at? I've been waiting to see him show up for a little while. Levi Onwuzurike, I'm waiting to see on you. Josh Pascal, I'm waiting to see on you. I understand you're waiting on James Houston to get back from his injury, but still, that's no excuse. Someone other than Ali McNeil has got to step up here because once you see more players producing on a defensive line, it leads to one less blocker trying to suffocate on Aiden, and that's going to allow Hutz to do what he's got to do to make plays.
Yeah, the pass rush did not show up, and neither did the secondary. The entire defense
did not show up. 0 sacks, and that's before when you consider the fact that Anzalone went down with a hand or thumb injury. So that was just literal insult, or injury to insult, or insult to injury, however you look at the term. But still, it was the worst thing. It was the last thing you could have wanted to see in that situation.
Yeah. Hopefully, I don't know how long Anzalone's going to be out for, but
depending on the degree of the injury and how severe it was. Now, it is worth noting he was listed today as questionable, but he did not practice. So if he's not going to be practicing all week, I doubt he's going to be playing on Sunday. So I believe he would miss at least this game, potentially the next 2 games minimum. You hope it gets to stops at that, maybe one more after that, but hopes he comes back after 4 weeks, after that 3rd game. But it's a crucial loss to this defense when you consider the fact that he is one of your captains. He is, I believe, your leading. He leads the team in tackles. He's been consistently one of those forces. I believe he's also been the play caller on the defensive side of things of the ball too. So you're losing all of that in one guy. Not to mention the fact that before this, the Lions were experimenting with moving Malcolm Rodriguez. You remember old Rodrigo from Hard Knocks. They were experimenting by moving him.
He caught a pass.
Exactly. They were experimenting moving him out of the defense because he primarily was at linebacker. They tried him in at fullbacker. Like you said, Taylor, he caught a pass. So that shows the versatility that Rodrigo brings to the table. Good on him. But guess what? We're probably going to have to see him play primarily more on defense because what? You need depth. Anzalone just went down. So what else can you do here? Yeah, but you can't overuse him too much on both sides of the ball because what? You got to
just use him on injury. Defense.
You're gonna have to because you need linebackers, and your best linebacker just went down. So yeah,
I know the pass rush has to step up, but the secondary, like I pointed out many times before, they have to do their own job. Can't just rely on the pass rush to get everything done. And even though you cover receivers, you can't let the ball fly over. You got to make the defensive play the darn ball, and not the body. I know that, but really, you got to get your hand in there at some point to try to make a defensive play, try to break that pass up.
I think it comes down to being effective. Listen, you got to accept the fact that because this team is so good at stopping the run, that's going to force more teams to throw and pass at you. So what? You got to be more prepared on one aspect. You got to be prepared, preparing your line to get home better, or preparing your secondary to cover better. I would prefer more of my
Both.
D-line getting better. No. If I'm going to pick one, you would prefer the D-line because that can cause havoc, get pressure. It already stops the run. So now adding on top, getting to the quarterback, applying pressure that can lead to hurried throws, potentially leading to interceptions by your secondary. If you're going to ask me to pick one, I'm always going to pick for a better D-line. But when your D-line is not getting sacks, that's going to make things more difficult for your secondary. Conversely, I saw Green Bay, their D-line all up in Jared Goff's grill practically the whole damn game. And frankly, considering how vaunted this Lions offensive line is, I know they missed Jonah Jackson, but damn, this was one of the very few times, if at all, probably outside the Baltimore game, where they just looked completely manhandled.
Where was Penei Sewell?
Please, Sewell. I just mentioned Taylor Decker earlier.
Oh, right. I know that. Yeah. I mean, Taylor Decker's being Taylor Decker.
Ragnow, Glasgow, those guys. Like I said, I know you're missing Jonah Jackson, but that's no excuse. I know Sorsdal's a rookie, but still, no excuse.
Jackson's only one player.
Yeah.
Jackson's only one player.
Like I said, Taylor Decker got embarrassed by Rashawn Gary. Okay? So that's on the offensive line to have a bounce back week this week against New Orleans. But like I said, when your D line is not getting the pressure necessary, it's going to make things more difficult for your secondary.
Yeah, and that's where the secondary has to step up and help the defensive line as well by covering the receivers.
Honestly,
got to work together.
Honestly, at this point, your secondary is as thin as is. I think they're covering as much as they can possibly get. Not to mention the fact they're probably still waiting on C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
They're covering the receivers, but they're not playing the ball when the pass comes to your opposing guy, and you're just letting the receiver catch the ball.
And I would argue on most of those
I've seen it so many times. I've seen it way too many times. It's got to stop.
I would argue, I agree, but I would also argue that helps better when your defensive line creates a better presence.
Right, I know.
That's all I'm saying. Listen, as long as the D-line is doing their job,
I've seen that too.
I don't care about the secondary, honestly. If your D-line is doing its job, that I know. But here's the thing: when your defensive line is doing its job, that takes care of everything else. Period. Because the quarterback is not having time to get the damn ball out to begin with. So you got to worry about your secondary getting toast because the quarterback's getting harassed all day long.
Yep.
That's all. That's all I'm offering.
Well, yeah, I know. I want them both to work together.
Yeah, but guess what? Sometimes you can't have both. You can't have your cake and eat it too. Sometimes you got to pick one, which suits you best, which works for you best. And knowing this team, knowing their identity, knowing their personality, and what they're supposed to be all about, it's got to be in that defensive line. That's why you drafted Aiden Hutchinson number 2 overall. That's why you invested in guys like John Kaminsky and James Houston and so on and so forth. And that's why, frankly, fans, some if not most, were rightly pissed that they didn't do anything to address that defensive line at the trade deadline. And listen, I love Brad Holmes, but I can admit that Brad Holmes muffed up on that one. You should have tried to find yourself another defensive lineman. Even if it's not a Chase Young or a Montez Sweat. What, Brian Burns wasn't on your radar? Randy Gregory was on your radar? Get someone that you know is going to force at least an extra offensive lineman or a tight end to come off of Aiden, for the love of God.
Yeah, Aiden Hutchinson needs a lot of help. He does.
Like I said, and even though it's helpful optimism, thinking that James Houston is all of a sudden going to turn into what he was last year, or still basically be coming off of injured reserve, it's a pipe dream. At best, but it's needed. It will be needed depth when he returns. But I'm not expecting him to be the guy that was getting 7 sacks in 7 games or that type of deal. I'm not expecting that, especially coming off an injury such as this. I believe it was an ankle injury, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. But where I'm coming from is like high urgency on all portions of the defensive unit, and this is and when it comes to time to have a sense of urgency, when desperate times call for desperate measures, when you're trying to claw back into the game and trying to win it.
Well, we've seen it happen.
All players to step up.
Well, we've seen it happen before where they did step up, namely Aiden when he got that strip sack on Justin Fields, for example, or the defense when they performed the way they performed.
Yes.
Yeah, and also I'm talking about specifically the defense in general, the way they performed in Tampa against Baker Mayfield in that fourth quarter when you knew that Tampa had to respond with a score to keep up within striking distance with the Lions. No, the defense shut that shit down. We need to find ways to get back to that, but I don't know how that's going to happen.
Yeah,
I don't know if Aaron Glenn has to bring more pressure, be more aggressive.
That's definitely on Aaron Glenn.
We're bringing, and you can critique Aaron Glenn on some things. And by the way, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that fans are going to be praising him one week and then calling for him to be fired the next. First and foremost, pick a damn side. And second of all, the fact that this defense is not as bad as it truly was. Remember the 1-7, the 1-6 start of how awful that defense was? And
they fired defensive backs coach Aubrey Pleasant. That's the secondary defense.
Yeah. So once they brought and making the adjustment, making Aaron Glenn the DC, there had to have been some contributing factor to the defense improving the way they did. So if you get back to some of your philosophy of being aggressive at the front, at the line, trusting your secondary to know, hey, make a play when necessary. If you're in one-on-one, don't rely too much heavy on zone. Excuse me. Just be your natural self. That'll work itself out for you.
Yes, it can. So the Lions, they got lucky because the Minnesota Vikings lost to the Chicago Bears, the aforementioned Bears, 12-10 at home at US Bank Stadium to drop to 6-6. The Lions the Lions still have a 2.5 game lead standings wise, records wise on the Vikings for the lead in the NFC North. Packers, they're another sleeper team. Watch out for them too. They're 5-6. The Lions just fell to sleep right against those guys entirely, while the Bears improved to 4-8.
Yeah, bad week, but still, at the end of the day, you are still in first place. You have a 2.5 game lead on Minnesota. They just lost one of the absolute most horrible, god-awful displays of football I've ever seen on Monday Night Football. That game between the Bears and the Vikings, no one deserved to win. Honestly, that deserved a tie, frankly. But you take the Vikings loss whenever you can get, because that's your, at the moment, that's your most closest team to you in terms of the standings. So knowing that you're going to face them twice still to come at the end of the season, you keep an eye on them, and you certainly keep an eye on Green Bay, because they're going to be having wild card aspirations themselves. Thankfully, you don't have to play those assholes anymore until next year, but still, you have to remember the fact that 3 of your last 6 games of your schedule are against divisional opponents. This is where you win this division. These are your money games for a reason, especially of how this team has performed in December the last 2 years. This is where you got to get it done, especially if you want to win this division title and win it going away, frankly. Because I want it to be a situation to where, say, for example, the Week 16 game, they're in Minnesota. They could frankly have a chance to clinch it right then and there with a win or a loss, with a win by basically beating the Vikings. That'll be a nice little, hey, Merry Christmas to Detroit Lions fans, because that'll be on Christmas Eve that day. But just something to where if you stay consistent, if you just be yourself and just take care of the damn ball, you'll easily win this division. Yeah,
take better care of the ball. Yep, Goff's got to. I want to point out another thing too. Goff's got to learn to endure more under duress, under pressure, and still throw the ball. If it caves in on him, he's got to scramble. He's got to scramble.
Well, he was doing that. The issue is how he's got to protect the damn ball while he's either scrambling or under duress.
Yep.
Because again, listen, this has been brought up before, brought up heavily during his first year in Detroit when he was struggling, as bad, if not worse, than he's struggling right now. And people will bring up the fact that he's got small hands and he's got a problem with fumbles and everything. Now, thankfully, he's been able to correct that for the most part, but you're going now into a stretch where in your past 2 games consecutively, your starting quarterback has turned the ball over 6 times. That's alarming. 3 interceptions, 3 fumbles. And like I said, one of those
Throw the
fumbles,
ball to the wrong guy.
you can. And by the way, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going back to the Raiders game because that was another home game, and that was another game where the Lions had multiple turnovers, including a golf pick 6.
3 straight games where the Lions have played poorly. And the last road game they played just fine, except their defense got exposed by Justin Herbert and the LA Chargers. The Lions still won that game 41-38.
Frankly, in a game like that, you just need your offense to score in every damn possession, and luckily you did that. As to what the issue of primarily with golf in general, taking care of the ball must be priority issue number 1, because like I said, going back to the Monday night game against the Raiders, that is 3 straight home games where Jared Goff, as the starting quarterback, has given up a turnover in all those games, and in total combined, he has 7 turnovers, and just that 3-game stretch at home. The only reason I say at home because in between one of those games was the Chargers game. He was flawless in that, but at home he's been the drizzling shits, and we don't know why. So hopefully the next time when they play at Ford Field, we won't be seeing this again. So who knows? Maybe they just need this road trip to New Orleans just to get their mind off of stuff like that. Because frankly, you need.
Right now they're being distracted at home by their home crowd. They're not feeding off of it. If you put it this way,
they're not. You can't say they're distracted by their home crowd. Trust me, they are feeding off that energy. They're just not executing.
No,
all comes down to execution. Point blank and simple. That's why you had a missed field goal.
They're not executing. They're fucking it up.
Yeah, immensely. And trust me, and while you see obvious flaws and potential weaknesses that can come back to bite you,
feed off of it, it backfires.
That can come back to bite you in the play. That can come back to bite you in the playoffs. You see these weaknesses now, but you hope that they can find some way to fix up on them by the time the postseason starts. Because you want to see them try to.
Got to use your brain if you're Jared Goff.
Remember the mental clock in your head that, hey, the pressure is going to be coming probably a little bit faster because what? These games are getting down to the nitty gritty. So expect these players to be more ferocious, more intense. So what? Expect these D coordinators to probably dial up more blitzes as a result. So yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, and Goff, I haven't seen him keep the football for rushes much. I think he needs to start doing that too.
Well, that's not his game. He's not a scrambler. He's not an athletic dual threat quarterback. Okay, he's not a Justin Fields. He's not a Justin. No, this is not who he is. That like he is his style of quarterback play is who he is.
It's not good enough.
Which is fine. No, it's good. It's been good enough so far. Have you seen how you remember? Come on, Taylor. You've seen how he's done over the past year. The stats,
right?
The numbers speak for
until those last 3 home games.
Yes, I agree, but there's still time for him to fix that. That's why they've been doing drills in practice this week. That's why they've been doing drills in practice this week. Hold on and protect the damn ball.
A week and a half. Yeah, that's a lot of time.
Well, yeah, 10 days off from Thanksgiving. We'll give you that time to think about that shit.
Exactly. Yeah, just don't fuck up. That's it. So the Lions, still 4-point favorites against the New Orleans Saints at the let me see here. The Lions and Saints, that's going to be the
last I remember, it was the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, but they changed the name again, I'm sure.
The Caesars Superdome now.
I'm just going to call it the Superdome. I'm just going to call it the Superdome. And
it's the Superdome nonetheless. It's the Superdome nonetheless. It just has a different sponsor, to be exact, in technicality. The Caesars Palace Casino, or just Caesars Casino. But anyway, the Saints come in 5-6. The Lions 8-3. The Saints are not a good team, but the Lions again cannot sleep on them. They got to get off to a better start, and they're on the road. But who cares? They got to get off. Their offense has to get off to a much better start than they did on Thanksgiving against the Packers. Period.
Oh, I agree. And it all starts and ends with just protecting the ball. Just do what you've been doing on offense. Drive this ball down the field by being your this power physical team up front with your run. Utilize your play action. Utilize Amon-Ra St. Brown. Keep getting JMO involved the way that you've been getting him involved. And the rest will take care of itself as long as you just protect the damn ball. Period. If the Lions just win, just even if it's the turnover margin is at 0, like both teams have no turnovers, as long as the Lions just take care of the ball, they win this game easily. Because guess what? New Orleans, they're beat the shit. They're beat the shit more, frankly, more than the Lions are. Yeah, we're questionable on our end. Anzalone's questionable. He might not play. Tracy Walker's questionable. David Montgomery's questionable, and so is Jonah Jackson. But here's who's New Orleans potentially they're going to be missing, okay? They're going to be missing Cam Jordan, their best their best edge rusher and one of the best edge rushers in the game. He's questionable with an ankle injury. Michael Thomas, he's going to be dealing with a shoulder injury. He's questionable. And oh, by the way, Chris Olave, he suffered a concussion last week. He's in protocol. He's going to be questionable. So you're going to be dealing with a team that's missing 3 of their best players. They've already been having trouble with the quarterback position. Derek Carr just returned from injury, but he had himself a pick 6 of his own, okay, in the past game. So this Saints team is more than ideal to get the ball to you if you're in the right spot. So knowing that the Lions are going to be facing a team that's beat up as the Saints are. And yes, also knowing that this is Dan Campbell's return to New Orleans. Remember, he was a former assistant coach there as well under Sean Payton. I believe that was his last spot before he came to the Lions as to be the head coach. So all this is going to be, and I think Aaron Glenn was working with him too on that same staff. So that being said, I say all that to say this: the Lions, excuse me, as long as they take care of the football, do what they have to do in terms of finishing drives with touchdowns, and frankly, their secondary, not their secondary, their defensive line just gets to the ball, gets to the quarterback, they should be fine. They're favored by 3.5, by 4 points. They should be able to win by at least a touchdown or more. So before I get my score, Taylor, what will be your prediction?
I'm going to say the Lions 24 and the Saints 17, I guess. I mean, even if the Lions don't turn the ball over, I mean, it's going to be much more leaning almost towards a defensive game, I'd say.
No,
24-17.
I would say it leans more towards offensive, knowing how the Lions defense has been as of late, and not forgetting that this is the Superdome and that place can be a friggin' track meet down there. Okay. Now that's good if you're the Lions and knowing that as long as you don't turn the ball over, that's good for you. But if you're on the defense, that could be another potential test. So let's see how they respond. That being said, I say the Lions still win. I think 34-27, that type of score, 34-24. They'll win and cover.
I'll go 34-27.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My first guess was just a guess, I guess. But anyway, that's Lions. But here's hoping to God that they pull out that win. The Michigan Wolverines, they beat the Ohio State Buckeyes for the 3rd time in a row, 30-24 to win the Big Ten East Division Championship. 6-0 each with and without head coach Jim Harbaugh, who was suspended not once but twice, each for 3 games. Sharon Moore, 4-0 as acting head coach. Blake Corum, 2 birthday touchdowns on his birthday against Ohio State. Zach Zinner leaves with a broken tibia in his leg, but the way the Wolverines offense responded after that injury, Blake Corum on the next play right after that, a 22-yard touchdown, and then it was still a battle, but Michigan pulled away by 10. Ohio State edged to within 3 after that 17-17 tie. But Blake Corum, two touchdowns on his birthday. The first one on 4th and inches, in 4th and goal from inside the 1 at the half-yard line, cruised in, and then the aforementioned 22-yarder. Of course, the Wolverines burned a lot of clock, forcing the Buck and kicked the field goal. James Turner nailed that one perfectly. And then the Buckeyes got the ball back with exactly a minute left. They I give them credit. They got the ball to midfield, but Rod Moore came up with the interception. The defense came up big. The Wolverines defense came up big. The pass rush, of course, helped the secondary out. Like you mentioned before with the Lions, the Wolverines came away with the victory, 30-24. So before we get to the college football playoff rankings, Ed, what is your analysis on the game?
Well, first and foremost, what I could say about the game is that it lived up to the hype once more and once again. This is I believe this has been the second year in a row both teams faced each other, but where both teams were ranked 11-0, undefeated, and ranked number 2 and 3 in both AP and the college football playoff rankings. This was already a game that was going to get enormous amounts of hype based on the history of the rivalry, based on the lore, based on the fact that that Michigan had recently turned the tide by winning 2 straight games in this series, including one of those being the first time you won in Columbus since 2000. With that shocking turn of events last year at the Horseshoe. So coming into this year, let's talk about the elephants in the room, because there are multiple elephants. Fallout from the Connor Stallions situation, which led to Jim Harbaugh being suspended, which of course meaning he was going to be missing this game. And so Sharon Moore once again had to handle the responsibilities of play calling duties, offensive coordinator, and offensive line coach while being the acting head coach. My goodness, so much stress for one man. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he got it done, but credit to him, hats off to him. He is proving why he was easily a Broyles Award finalist or semifinalist at the very least. In my opinion, this should be solidifying that he wins that award, hands down. And not only that, it serves him up as a potential contender to be a head coach next year on someone else's sideline that's not Michigan's. Frankly, that is what's looking likely based on how he did in his 4 games, especially with these last 3. The circumstances, the pressure, the attention, the fact that you were on the road for 2 of these games. These were all highly contested, hard-fought battles. And what you're facing 2 top 10 teams, one of those being the other best team in your conference, and you won them all. And the way that Sharon Moore was in this was in his bag, frankly, in this game. He was out coaching Ryan Day left and right. It was astonishing how he was doing. And I'll get to that in a minute. But in terms of this game living up to the hype, all that drama and all those circumstancing storylines and narratives surrounding this game, it's not a surprise that in terms of overall viewership, this game averaged at around 19 million viewers, peaking at about 23 to 24 million viewers, smashing, absolutely smashing any other game that was on that day, including Auburn versus Alabama, okay, by a wide margin. It was easily the most watched college football game since you got to date all the way back to LSU, Alabama, that 1 versus 2 matchup in 2011. And in terms of even more significance, both historical and local, because all connects and ties back together. It is in terms of doing my research, this was the second most watched Big Ten game ever. Second, of course, only to the 2006 game of the century with Michigan and Ohio State, number 1 versus number 2. And frankly, yeah, I could see why. But going back into this game, why it deserved all the credit, why people were still talking about it days later, besides the fact that Michigan once again got a win against Ohio State. Let's talk about what led up to it. And Taylor, as you went over it, the first foremost, it was a tight defensive first half. You got to admit that. And I do believe, though,
it was low scoring.
Yeah, very much. And I believe, though, it was bookended by special teams, because when you think about it, it was the great punt by Doman. I hope I'm saying his name right. Doman, excuse me, that led eventually to the Will Johnson interception. And Will Johnson, by the way, on that pick, showed why he was the consensus first team all Big Ten defensive selection for both media and coaches. In my opinion, he's going to be an All-American and potentially one of the top cornerbacks in this upcoming NFL draft. He jumped the route that he knew was going to Marvin Harrison Jr., and he picked off Kyle McCord. He read him like a book. And that interception, which almost turned into a pick six, and had he not stumbled, eventually led to the Corum touchdown on fourth and goal. Now, after a couple of back and forth defensive stops, which includes a couple possessions, which I will scrutinize in detail in a couple more minutes. But after that, it led to, frankly, in my opinion, J.J. McCarthy having to dabble a little bit into his magic. Because remember the big plays, the big throws that he was making last year to beat Ohio State, finding Cornelius Johnson, finding Colston Loveland, running it in himself for a score. We saw a little bit of big game JJ in this one too. The way he was delivering passes, making necessary runs to get first downs on crucial drives, and just know where to put the ball in key and crucial situations. And sometimes in situations where you would think, no, do not throw it like that, especially when he threw it across, I believe it was across his body near midfield late in the fourth quarter on a potential that play could have been a potential disaster. But credit to JJ for the throw, credit to the receiver for making the catch on that. But that shows to how dialed in he was. So much so that when he fired this absolute laser of a ball to Roman Wilson, I don't think the defender even knew where it was until it was right by his ear. So Wilson catches it, and that led to the touchdown and the subsequent review. And frankly, that was until things got more interesting later on. That was the bulk of the discussion on social media, and by commentary and whatnot. Like, what was the nature of that touchdown catch? Was it a catch? Was he down? Was it a fumble? I'm not going to be sitting here all day on that, but I'll just say this. If JT Barrett got awarded his spot in 2016, Roman Wilson can get awarded his touchdown in 2023. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, after Emeka Egbuka kept it close, and that's, by the way, that's another stud you're going to be seeing on Sundays. It just came down to situations to where this was the story of the game, frankly, in these decisions. Because I saw it as a tale of two head coaches. One that was willing to do what it was necessary, do whatever it takes to win the game, and the other that on the surface, seemed he was playing not to lose. And what I mean is, when Ohio State had a 4th and 1, a 4th and short, 4th and inches, however you want to say it, it was around near midfield. Instead of going for it, knowing what you have on your offense, knowing that you have a running back in Travion Henderson, knowing that you have a weapon in Marvin Harrison Jr., and I already mentioned Egbuka as well, deciding to punt, in my opinion, that was the first flinch by Ryan Day.
Clearly.
And conversely, Sharon Moore, what did he do when side on 4th down? Oh, yeah, we're going for it. Blake, get this ball, get us this first down, get this ball, get us this touchdown. That's all there was to it. So between Sharon Moore recognizing the situation at hand, being aggressive when it was necessary, going for it on 4th down. By the way, also other issues, little wrinkles is too. Let's not forget that trick play that he called to Donovan Edwards, making that pass down the field. That was something that you would think Ohio State should have been preparing for, because it's not the first time that Edwards has done this. He did it against Iowa in the Big Ten title game 2 years ago, but for some reason they got caught flat-footed. But credit to Sharon Moore, he sensed it when it was the right time to make that call, and that's again just another example of him showing that he wanted it more in this game. Ryan Day, for all his talk and all his bluster, saying, we had one bad half the last 2 years. We're a tough team, and all this blowing the whistle and trying to get his players motivated in the little mosh pit. Rah, rah, rah. When it came down to it, when it mattered most, you flinched. You didn't pull the trigger, and that was one reason why you lost. And the reason why I say that,
like a coward.
And the reason why I say that again, let's go back to late in the first half. Ohio State, they got the ball. They're driving. They're in Michigan territory. You're facing a 4th and short. Leading up to that decision, you're already burning clock. And what does Ryan Day decide to do? Instead of trying to go for it, trusting his offense, seeing if he can get maybe, a touchdown to put more pressure on Michigan, Which, by the way, I can see the coin side flip of, well, I don't know, you're giving Michigan's offense a short field. But guess what? Ohio State's defense came to play today. They came to play on Saturday. I would have trusted them with my life depending on it on that day, with how motivated I know they had to have been and how they had played, especially against the run. So I would have taken my chances on fourth down, knowing the weapons I have on offense if I'm Ohio State. Fourth and short from around midfield, please, easy decision. Easy decision, especially when you haven't beaten these assholes in how many years? I don't know what he was doing. And then the clock management leads. And by the way, again, another example, Sharon Moore calling that timeout, froze the kicker. That led to the missed kick. That's missed points. They left off the board right then and there. So between that interception and that missed field goal, that was points either leading directly to Michigan or being taken away from Ohio State. That led to the difference in the game right then and there. And it was all in that first half. Just in that first half alone. And then when you talk about Taylor, if pardon me from, going on a diatribe here, but come on, this game had it all for you. The offense, the drama, the moments, it all happened in that second half. Because after Ohio State tied it up at 17, very physical, punishing drive with Travion Henderson, which felt like a message, a statement more than anything that no, we are not going to lay down. We are not going to be your bitch today. So that's what the message that Ohio State was sending to Michigan on that drive. And Michigan, frankly, I got to say, they responded in one of the most unique ways that I wasn't expecting to see happen ever. First and foremost, they drive the ball down the field. JJ's looking good. He's finding his tight ends, which I thought was a great adjustment. They're going to stop the run. They're going to try to contain your outside guys. Just use your tight ends. Use your tight ends. You've been using them all year for a reason. Use them. Colston Loveland, AJ Barner. Use them. And they did on that drive. And on one of those plays, you've seen the injury, you've seen the angle, you've seen the replay. That's when Zach Zinter goes down. And the whole demeanor, the mood, the stadium, the aura, everything was silent. Hushed pin drop. A literal pin drop could have been heard in that stadium. Because let's not shrink down the significance that Zach Zinter means to this team. He is a senior. He is their best offensive lineman by far. Here's the most experienced offensive lineman by far. And he was projected to be one of the first offensive linemen taken in next year's NFL draft for a reason. And when he went down, and in the nature that he went down, credit to Fox Sports, by the way, for not showing endless replays, because that would have been awful to watch. Knowing the fact that his parents are already there, it's senior day. I can't even imagine the emotions that he had to be going through that young man's mind right there on that field. And the fact that, and by the way, the clip, that the story is up there by Joel Klatt. The fact that 110,000 people out of nowhere, just by nature it seemed, started chanting, "Let's go, Zach. Let's go, Zach." I'm getting goosebumps just even recollecting on it. But it motivated the team. It galvanized them. It let them know that, hey, no. We're not going to let you fall like this. Get up. You've been knocked down. You've been hit before. Get up. Get off the deck. Brush yourself off and punch these assholes right back. And the images speak for themselves. There were pictures. The whole entire Michigan sideline, the whole literal team came out on the field. You saw players emotional, crying, slamming their helmets down on the field. J.J. McCarthy trying to give them, give consolation to his players, to let them know, hey, it's bad, yes, but listen to the crowd, listen to our fans. They're putting us on their backs for a reason. We've been, let's respond. And the fact that the very next play, as Zach Zinter was likely being carted up the tunnel, the very next play, Blake Corum scores a touchdown. And he uses it, by the way, thanks primarily to a block setup by Taylor Keegan, Zach Zinter's best friend and his roommate. And the fact that Corum, after that touchdown, ran up to the camera, screaming, fired up. He flashed up the finger sign, 6'5". You knew exactly who that was for. And frankly, in my opinion, that was the moment that Michigan decided, we're not going to lose this fucking game. we are not losing this game under any circumstances. And it showed. They responded with 10 unanswered points. They were looking to be, it seemed like at one point in the fourth quarter, they were looking to go for the kill. They were like blood. They were like sharks swimming the blood in the water. And I'll give Ohio State credit, just like I expected them to. They were not going to be going down without a fight. Even in that fourth quarter in 2021, before Hassan Haskins finally broke them, they were still keeping at you by delivering, punch after punch, counter punch after counter punch. And it happened again in this game. Marvin Harrison Jr. This is why this young man is not only the best wide receiver in America, he's arguably the best player in America right now. And it showed why. Back shoulder catches, one-handed grabs while being DPI'd. This kid was playing his ass off. He was doing whatever he can to get his team back in this game, and he got a touchdown to make it a one-score game, finishing on the day with 118 yards. But credit to Michigan, because they responded, Taylor, like you said, with that 7-minute drive. Frankly, that was quintessential classic boa constrictor Michigan football. We're going to run it at you. We're going to run it again. And guess what? We're going to run it some more. And you're not going to be able to stop us. What up? And you saw it. It wilted Ohio State's will. It wilted their drive. It was breaking them. I saw it. I was watching it happen in real time again. I texted to you. We're breaking them again. Because their spirit, their fighting drive was being slowly sapped out of them because Michigan was not going to get off the field, and the clock just kept burning down. Tick, 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 tick. Until finally Ohio State forced Michigan to settle for a field goal, but it was only a minute left, 60 seconds. They burned out all their timeouts. As far as I'm concerned, Michigan had got the objective done. They burned clock. They forced Ohio State to use all their timeouts, and they even got points. And it put Ohio State in a position where you knew they were for sure. A field goal was not going to save their asses. It was going to be touchdown or bust. And while it came right down to the wire, which honestly I'm not surprised given how that whole damn game was going, the fact that it got settled by, what did I say, Taylor? When your defensive line gets after the quarterback, it makes life so much easier for you. Pressure up the middle, Jalen Harrell around the edge from Mason Graham. That leads to a badly thrown ball, wobble pass, boom, underneath, interception, Rod Moore, ball game. And frankly, Taylor, the fact that it happened like that, which eerily reminded me of the end of the 2011 game in a way, but the fact that this was done in this manner, this fashion, helps create a lot of legacies, in my opinion, for just what happened in this game, for this season, and for players in particular on this team. Especially the guys who, like I said before, it's senior day. It was going to be their last time ever donning that helmet in front of those people, in front of those crowd, in front of those fans, and they made the most of that. Guys like Mikey Sanderstill, guys like Taylor Keegan, guys, of course, like Blake effing Corum, making it happen no matter what. If you had to give an arm, you gave an arm. If you had to give a leg, you would give a leg, as we saw Zach Zinter do. It took literal blood, sweat, tears, broken legs, whatever you fucking name it. It took all of that and then some, because you knew Ohio State was going to bring it, and you knew you were going to need all your best A game and then some to beat them, which is what happened. So now all that, it gives you a legacy of, you had a winning record against Ohio State. You're likely going to win 3 straight Big Ten championships. You're going to go to the college football playoff 3 years in a row. And this marks the first 3-game streak for Michigan since 1995 to 1997. And I need not to remind anybody else how 1997 ended.
National championship. I'll share it with it between Michigan and when was it?
Nebraska.
What was it?
Nebraska.
Thank you very much. I remember it now. Thank you. Yes, I remember. I just want to refresh.
I wish I couldn't. That damn tip ball at Missouri.
I got a lot of balls to want to know, really.
That tip ball at Missouri was literally the difference between Michigan having a whole national championship. I'm sick to this day still thinking about that.
Hey, you take whatever you earn, you take, you accept. That's it. If you win, you win. If you win the national title, you win the national title. Period.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's exactly the mission that is not done yet for the Wolverines. Right
Nope.
now,
Job's not finished.
college football playoff rankings. Georgia at 1, Michigan at 2, Washington at 3, Florida State at 4, Oregon at 5, Ohio State at 6. I thought the Buckeyes were going to drop to 7.
No. Because based on their strength of schedule coming into the game and their resume, I had a feeling that even if they had lost to Michigan, if it was close like it was and now it turned out to be, the committee was not going to punish them that badly.
No.
So in my opinion, dropping Ohio State from 2 to 6 is fair, but I do think it's messed up that potentially a team like Texas has a much more difficult path to the playoff as a result. Because frankly, Texas, they're playing for the conference championship this upcoming Saturday. Ohio State isn't.
Exactly, because Texas. Oh, definitely keep your eyes on them because if Texas wins, they might enter the college.
Well, no, Texas is going to need some help because because the expected favorites here are Michigan, Georgia, and I know Oregon's a favorite against Washington, but honestly, I think that game could be another coin flip. So let's just say the Washington-Oregon winner. That's your 3 teams. Let's consider who that 4th team is likely going to be. It's either going to be Ohio State, maybe, or Texas, or the loser of Washington-Oregon. That's your 3 considered teams, and that's provided if Alabama doesn't somehow beat Georgia. Now, if Alabama beats Georgia, fucking all bets are off, okay? Texas has a much easier chance to get in for sure. Alabama, I would argue, has a chance to get in themselves because not only would they have beaten Georgia, they would have been a 12-1 SEC champion. To me, that warrants, and you beat the number 1 team in the nation. To me, that warrants a playoff spot. I know this hasn't been a vintage Bama team, but if you do that, damn it, you deserve a spot. I wouldn't go higher than 4, but you deserve a spot, in my opinion. I know it's going to leave some people potentially upset, but I just don't see the committee leaving out an SEC champion as one of their 4 teams, especially if Alabama does what I just mentioned. So that's going to make things more difficult. So if you're Michigan, frankly, you ain't worried. Just handle your business and you just kick your feet up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was still curious of how this 6-team college football playoff system works. Now Washington, like you mentioned, is going to take on Oregon, right?
Well, yeah. So that's your Pac-12 championship game. Washington's 3, Oregon's 5. So the winner of that game, that's going to get one of those spots. They're going to want to get one of those 4 spots. Michigan, they're the heavy favorite against Iowa. You would suspect them to get one of those spots. Now, here's the thing. Florida State is playing against Louisville in the ACC championship game, but they were without their starting quarterback, Josh Howard, I believe that's his name, or Josh Travis. He got injured. He's done for the year. So Florida State, you would argue, they're probably the weakest team if they somehow win this game and get into the playoff. Because guess what? Conference champion, undefeated, perennial Power 5 program name. To me, it would be just as an injustice if an undefeated Florida State team gets left out. It's not their fault that their quarterback got hurt.
Exactly.
So it's a conundrum. It's a conundrum, but frankly, Michigan, it's just no problem. Win, you're in, and to me, it's on to Pasadena as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So Ohio State does not play this.
No, they're done. They're done. And frankly, even if all that craziness happens, I don't think Ohio State's going to have enough to backdoor themselves in 2 years in a row. Now, if Alabama beats Georgia, maybe, but I think even if that happens, as long as Texas wins, they should jump Ohio State, period, because they'll be 12-1 with a conference title. And oh, by the way, they beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. So how can you deny that if you're the committee is crazy as far as I'm concerned. Texas has just as much a debate in this, just as much of a fight in this as Ohio State was or would have, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Yeah. A little breaking news back to the Lions. The Carolina Panthers are reportedly expected to target Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson for the head coaching vacancy.
I'm not surprised. They just fired Frank Reich. We've been mentioning a couple of times that it wouldn't surprise anyone if after this season here, Ben Johnson were to leave to become a head coach somewhere else. So, again, it's just a matter of when, not if. I'm expecting that. It's just a matter of what team is going to pick him up.
Yeah. So the Lions are going to have to plan ahead.
Yeah, you would hope so.
Point. Yeah, to find a different guy for the same position, of course. But
I was just throwing a shit ton of money at Eric Bieniemy, but that's just me.
Right. Well, I mean, just do anything, whether it's smart or not. But back to Michigan, 21.5-point favorite. It's still a heavy favorite against the number 16 Iowa Hawkeyes.
They're a 3-touchdown favorite for a reason. Iowa is just completely unwatchable. Their offense is putrid. Yeah, they got a great defense. They got a great defense. There's no doubt about that. They can get takeaways and everything, but their offense is so horrible. And guess what? And frankly, Taylor, who have they played? People want to talk about, Michigan hasn't played anybody. Who the fuck has Iowa played?
Michigan crushed Iowa 2 years ago, 42-3.
And they beat that ass last year in Kinnick, and they're going to beat that ass again this year. It's just a matter of what the final score is going to be. Provided that Iowa, now granted, Kirk Ferentz, he should at least know on how to get this team prepared. He should have a game plan in mind on what to do, on how to do his best to limit and neutralize Michigan. Because he knows that he's facing the best team that he's going to face all year long. So what do you got to do? In my opinion, you got to shorten the game. You got to shorten the game with long possessions, play keep away as much as you possibly can, and
avoid turnovers.
Avoid turnovers. Yes, and frankly,
same thing.
End all your drives with points, even if it is a field goal. If you got a field goal, kick them to death, fine. If you had them, that just shows how much faith you have and trust in your defense. Frankly, as far as I'm concerned,
make plays on offense too.
Yeah, but if you want to go crazy, go for it.
Wilson, Donovan Edwards, don't forget. Don't forget.
I was mentioning Iowa's chances at first, but trust me, I'd forgotten about Michigan because at the very, even though Michigan's expected to handle business, you still got to go over what Iowa can potentially bring to the table in terms of being a chaos disruptor. Because they beat Ohio State before in the Big Ten title game, and we all know what they did to Michigan in 2016. So anything is still, relatively speaking, possible. But if you're Iowa, that means you got to play keep away, finish all your drives with touchdown or with some kind of points, even if it is a field goal, and just pray to God that the JJ McCarthy that played against TCU shows up. Because frankly, that's your only chance to win if you're Iowa, is Michigan just fucks around and keeps turning over the ball. As long as they handle business, they'll be straight. Boom. Big Ten champions. You're going to the playoff. You're going to the Rose Bowl, and I will be so satisfied to see Jim Harbaugh be presented the Big Ten football championship trophy by none other than Tony Petitti. That would be the levels of Belichick getting the Lombardi trophy from Goodell at the deflate gate.
Well, I mean, gotta let bygones be bygones or something like that.
I know, but not now. The wounds are still too fresh. So if Jim is as much of a petty, petulant, red ass that I know he is, I expect him to go do whatever he can to not only bury Iowa in this game, but want to make sure that Tony Petitti is right front up and center to hand him his MF and trophy.
Yeah, if Michigan wins, and I think they will too, then it has to be done. Period.
Just give me. What's your score?
Michigan 38, Iowa 10.
45-7.
Okay, all right.
45-7. Let's roll. All right.
Both scores will cover the 21.5 point spread.
45-7. Let's head to Pasadena. Let's get this business done.
Yeah. But speaking of college football and such, the Michigan State Spartans football team hired former Oregon State Beavers coach Jonathan Smith as their new head coach. So, yeah, after getting routed by Penn State at Ford Field 42-0, it was time for a change. Harlan Barnett, an interim coach, simply could not cut it at all, even though he got 1-1 in Indiana in Bloomington for the brass spittoon. But that would not cut. That alone would not cut it, especially after Mel Tucker's firing. And just they were 2-0 with Tucker. Seriously, but really. Jonathan Smith, what are your thoughts about him?
I like the hire. I really do like the hire on a couple of reasons. If you pay attention to what he did at Oregon State, they were just as rock. Let's talk about what it was when he got there. They were just as rock bottom as Michigan State is right now, if not even worse. I think they were a 1 or 2 win program. They won 2 games in his first year. Eventually, there was stability being laid. Groundwork was being laid, and eventually they got to a point where they were winning 7 games. They were winning at least 6, 7, 8 games on the regular, on the norm. 2022, they had a 10-win season. This year alone, they have an 8-4 season. They play a team like Washington very well, very tough, all the way down to the wire. I think that impressed a lot of what what the AD in Michigan State, and in terms of in the school in general, is looking for this coaching search. And you know what? I think they deserve some credit with this as well. They took their time with it. They didn't rush. They didn't jump the gun at the first sign of trouble. They didn't try to throw money, they threw money at this. Don't get me wrong, but they didn't blindly throw money at someone to say, "Oh, please come and get this. Please come and help us. Please come save us." They interviewed 12 guys for this spot before coming to their decision. So they thought about this as carefully as you can possibly think, and they chose, after all that, out of that field, out of that pool, the guy they like the best. And frankly, if this is the guy that they like the best, I don't blame him, because he has a track record of taking over a program that is at its most abysmal and leading them to out of irrelevancy. And frankly, like I said before, he represents stability, which is something you so desperately need right now in East Lansing. It's stability.
Yep, stability is the key word here. So, Spartans, they lose all 3 of their quarterbacks to the transfer portal: Noah Kim, Kaden Hauser, and Sam Leavitt. So,
but they're likely getting one from the transfer portal. I wouldn't be surprised if Smith is bringing over one of his QBs from Oregon State in the portal, because I know he's bringing over at least one of his coaches. He's bringing over his tight end coach, which I believe is crucial, because if you're playing in a conference like the Big Ten, going up against monsters like Michigan and Penn State and Ohio State, and eventually you're going to be facing USC and fucking Oregon and Washington. Now, to me, this is a conference where you're going to need some tight ends. You're going to need yourself a tight end. And if you're bringing over a tight ends coach, to me, that's one step in the right direction that show you understand the job at hand, at least on one aspect. So kudos to Jonathan Smith on that. I like the hire. If I were to give it a rating, I'd give it a B+ A-. If we were to do what's your grade on that.
Yes.
And this is Captain. Remember, this is the flag. This is Captain Wolverine speaking. Okay, and I'm saying I like this move for Michigan State.
Me too. Yes. I would definitely allow the what's your grade segment. Yes, I would say A-. So, the Red Wings, they signed forward Patrick Kane to a 1-year, $2.75 million contract. He's not ready to play yet. He'll be back in like 7 to 10 days. Back next Thursday or next Thursday against San Jose, or next Saturday against the Ottawa Senators. So we were on this the whole time. Patrick Kane can help the power play. One con that I found out is 5-on-5 defense isn't as good as his 5-on-5 offense, but really Patrick Kane is more of a scoring forward than a defensive forward.
He's someone that you can easily slot on that second line. And put him on that second line. He can be a radical improvement, a crucial help, necessary help on power play. And frankly, experience, playoff experience, Stanley Cup experience, championship experience.
Three-time Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah, literally scored the cup-winning goal in overtime to win the first one. Okay, that type of experience, that type of ability, that type of talent.
Yeah, in Philadelphia.
Yes, I understand he's 36. Yes, I understand he had
still got some left in the tank.
Yes, I understand he has a bad hip and he had surgery for a reason.
That's why he's recovering.
But we still got to see how he looks, how he plays before we jump to any irrational conclusions. But I still say on the surface, the fact this was a 1-year deal, less than $3 million. If it works out, wonderbar. You're in the playoffs and you're a potential dark horse team. If it doesn't work out, you can cut bait at the end of the year. It's not going to affect your cap at all. I love this. Yeah, I really like this move. Very good move by Yzerman.
Smart move on the money as well. Just 1 year, less than $3 million. I would give that a straight mid-range A.
That's an easy A minus. That's an easy A minus. And the only reason I say A minus because again, Kane's age and the unknown certainty of how he's going to play coming off of recovering from his injury and surgery. That's the only thing. Other than that, yeah, I approve of this all across the board.
Not to mention his 5-on-5 defense, like I mentioned before.
Yeah.
I read that on Bleacher Report.
I did. Well, we should mention this. Let's not forget his history of Alex DeBrincat.
Yes. He and former teammates. Yes, for the Blackhawks.
Yeah. And in fact, if you listen to Kane, he gave interviews today. One of them was to TNT. I think another one was to Channel 7, I believe, or at least the NHL Network. One of those two. But he explained his decision to wanting to come to Detroit. And amongst many things, for some reason, like Detroit was always, no matter every time he kept looking at different teams or whatever teams, it kept circling back to Detroit. So Detroit was always at the forefront of potential teams to look at. And I think one big decision was the fact that they had signed, or not Troy, or the fact that they did bring in Alex DeBrincat. Bring in DeBrincat, I think, was a big opportunity in swaying Patrick Kane's mind to wanting to sign here. And frankly, as a Red Wings fan who will forever hate the Chicago Blackhawks, I love it. I love seeing them suffer. I love seeing them squirm. Yes, that's right. Now you get to experience what Packer fans experience seeing Brett Favre play for the effing Vikings. Now you get to experience that pain.
Yeah, exactly. So the Red Wings, they lost to the Rangers for first place in the Metropolitan Division, 3-2 in regulation. But the Red Wings, they're still in the playoff picture nonetheless. Fourth place in the not-so-Atlantic Division at 11-7-3 with 25 points. First place in the Eastern Conference wild card, Tampa Bay Lightning, 25 points, 10-8-5. Toronto, and also Tampa Bay. All Maple Leafs, Red Wings, and Lightning, all 25 points. Don't forget about that.
I will say, though, this. They responded well because they had a bit of themselves a losing streak going on. They snapped out of it with an impressive three-game stretch where they were scoring 4+ goals in multiple games.
They beat the Boston Bruins 5-2 on the road on Black Friday in the afternoon at TD Garden.
That was very impressive to see. It showed this team an example of this team's character, in my opinion. And that reflects them. That's got to reflect on your coach at some point. So good on Derek Lalonde for that. Now, unfortunately, they did come up short tonight against the Rangers. I think some of it comes down to the fact that you were missing Dylan Larkin. Not having your captain would have come in handy. Would have come necessary in a game like this, especially when the fact
captain, the heart and soul of the team. Yeah,
and also your best face-off winner because the Rangers absolutely owned the Wings tonight in the face-off department. They doubled them. I think it was 35 or 36 face-offs won to about 17 or 18 Detroit. Yeah, but when you don't have Larkin, it shows, and you needed those face-offs won, especially when you had a power play.
Day-to-day, I heard
a power play that turned into an extra skater. So you had a 6-on-4. For the last 2 minutes of that game, and partially, I should say, you weren't able to secure a crucial face-off. You didn't have enough time to set the control for the puck in the zone, and you couldn't get up get those extra seconds to get off a couple more shots. And frankly, that led to the loss. I mean, credit to the Rangers. They got the most points in the NHL for a reason. This is a home game at MSG, primetime game. So, and they performed.
16-4-1 are the Rangers. Hokey smokes Bullwinkle, 33 points.
Yeah, man. So they're legit.
That makes the Boston Bruins look like just a great team that's not elite.
Yeah,
wow.
and frankly, the way they were playing in that first period, they were so aggressive. I was surprised that they hadn't scored anything or made it a multi-goal deficit. And when they scored in the second period, I wasn't surprised. It felt inevitable. But credit to Detroit, they responded. They
did not get routed. Thank goodness.
Yeah, they scored 2 goals in the span of 25 plus seconds or more, and they took the lead just like that. Unfortunately, they just couldn't hang on. I think it came down to the Rangers just making 1 or 2 more plays. I could probably disagree with how that last goal came about. I thought that was a bit of, that stick was a bit too high when slapping the puck down and above the crossbar, but that's just me. I could be.
The way I saw it, it was at the crossbar, not below, but it was at. It
right.
Can at the crossbar.
It can be
that's
at,
cool.
But I thought it was above. That's just me, though.
No, it was not. It was not. It was close, but it was not above. I'm sorry.
Close.
It was clearly not up. It was close, but it was not above. It was really at the crossbar.
Fair enough. So
that's why it was called a good goal. Clearly.
Yes, exactly. So I'm not going to lose.
It's the truth.
Yeah, I'm not going to lose sleep over
sports truth.
Yeah, I'm not going to lose sleep over that. So if you're the Red Wings, you got to group up. I thought Husso looked better in goal tonight. Yeah, he took the loss, but I thought there was some spots he looked way better than he looked in the past few games. So hope he keeps that up for his sake.
Yeah. Yeah, they beat the Minnesota Wild 4-1 before that.
Mm-hmm.
They
beat the Devils before to kick off the win streak.
Alex Lyon was a brick or stone wall. He only allowed one goal in the last week. 4-0 again. We mentioned that on our last episode against the New Jersey Devils. That was an amazing win against a Devils team that's 10-9-1, 6th place in the Metropolitan Division, 21 points. How could that happen? I think they're a little bit better than that, but really, it was an impressive win by the Red Wings. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the Bruins and then the Minnesota Wild. That was it. So we got a comment on here. Guess the main question is, how do the Pistons turn the season around? Well,
don't get me started.
They don't. They're 2-16. They lost 15 straight. Worst record in the NBA. Even Monty Williams is especially pissed off. He was pissed off the loss before, and he was pissed off in the loss 133-107 at Little Caesars Arena to the Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James included, out of all people on earth. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the old Lakers with LeBron somehow in year 21 looking 5 years younger tonight.
But in all seriousness, Monty Williams was pissed, and I can't blame him. The whole team is a shit pile.
They stink. They suck. They blow. They're garbage. They're horrible. They're awful. What else can I say? Whatever words, whatever verbiage, whatever terms.
Troy Weaver can take some criticism as well, but let me touch on the owner, Tom Gores. He's only a billionaire because he still scams prisoners for phone calls at a high price per minute. That's remember that interview with Bianca Tylik of Worth Rises Back over on Stables Media?
Of course.
With our podcast?
Just me.
He has to be forced to sell the Pistons.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
By law, or by at least some kind of regulation, or at least some warrant.
Good luck with that. And by the way, who's he going to sell it to?
Well, gotta put it up for sale and try to find the highest bidder. That's
yeah. Yeah, first of all, good luck trying to put the money together for that. And secondly, even if you somehow maybe wave a magic wand and say, yeah, Tom Gores, he's the owner, like, who do you trust to come in as an ownership group to try and fix this? Because what this means, you're going complete root canal of clearing everything. But this is supposedly the rebuild. So trust me, I'm trying not to spend as much time talking about these assholes as much as we already have, because they don't warrant it. They don't deserve it. When you're 2-16 with 15 straight losses, what the fuck is there to be talking about here?
Urinating Tree still has yet to produce a locale video on the Pistons too. Don't forget.
Please. Basketball
the Pistons are fucked.
Yeah.
Even more fucked than James Dolan's Knicks. Yeah, that's a name for you. But let's not forget the Tigers.
Yeah, let's end with more positive news, please.
They signed it's right here. They signed starting pitcher Kenta Maeda from the Minnesota Twins to a 2-year, $24 million contract. He had a 4.30 ERA in 22 starts this past MLB regular season 2023. And that's kind of valuable. I'll take that. Kenta Maeda, possibly a replacement for Eduardo Rodriguez.
Not possible. I would say he
Rodriguez is already leaving.
Yeah, Erod's gone, and frankly, with the money, probably a bit, just a smidge pricey, but I'm not, in terms of a player of this caliber, but I'm not going to complain. It's not my money, first and foremost, and secondly, if Scott Harris believes that this is a player that can be a mentor to the rotation that you have already, to the young rotation that you have, I should say, with Matt Manning, with Alex Faedo, Tariq Skubal, Joey Wentz, and of course Casey Mize. Okay, I can see with that line of thinking and that line of reasoning why he would make a move like this. You have to bear in mind, Maeda is 35 years old himself. He also not too far removed from Tommy John surgery himself. So maybe this is where his perspective could be needed in terms of guiding Casey Mize through his recovery from his Tommy John. So that could be one reason why he was brought in as well. You never know.
First Japanese pitcher for the Tigers, first Japanese player for the Tigers, let alone player for the Tigers since 2002, not 2000, it's 2002 when they had the tornado.
Yeah, I thought so, since Nomo. But speaking of Japanese pitchers, I'm not sure if this is somehow a domino effect that say, oh yeah, we're gonna get Yamamoto. No,
it's only one player.
No, God no.
It's only one player. It's only one player.
Don't get me wrong. I wish, because if we got a guy like him, I would say, yeah, we're winning this division hands down.
There's still more work to do for both Scott Harris and Jeff Greenberg.
Exactly. So you got to take this thing at one step at a time.
Yes. So that almost 80 minutes of this episode into this episode, and we finally covered everything. Now, what all did we learn tonight?
We learned that the Red Wings are taking their rebuild seriously, unlike a certain other team that plays in the same damn building as them. We've learned that the Michigan State Spartans are at least trying to get this one right. They did the right thing in terms, as far as I'm concerned, with the process, and they hired the right guy with Jonathan Smith. We learned that the Lions, frankly, they're not a perfect team. They're probably not as great as they're probably supposed to be or supposed to have looked earlier, but they're still a good team, still a damn good team. They're likely going to win this division. It's just a matter of taking care of the football. And if you're Michigan, what we learned, frankly, again, it's what we've been knowing for the past 3 years, and it's once again going to be official. The Big Ten runs through Ann Arbor. Period. We don't even without Jim Harbaugh, even with your best offensive lineman going down, even with Will Johnson himself even going down to injury, even with the distractions, Connor Stallions firing your linebackers coach, your head coach gets suspended all this Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and you're still winning, and you're still beating everybody's asses, and guess what? You're about to go to your third straight playoff. So like I said, the Big Ten still runs through Ann Arbor.
Yeah. So what I've learned in terms of what we discussed on the Lions pass rush and secondary, I did a little critical thinking along the way. So the Lions secondary is trash, and that's why you say you didn't care about them, and they're probably never going to get better unless Brad Holmes makes more moves. Now C.J. Gardner-Johnson is almost out for almost the entire year. Emmanuel Mosley is definitely out for the entire year. That leaves Cam Sutton out on an island with the rest of the very flawed secondary with Tracy Walker, even Kirby Joseph, who has proved himself better with a few picks. Also, Melifonwu and other guys. Will Harris at corner. If they're not going to play. If not, they're not going to play passing defense, any better passing defense. That leaves the pass rush on an island. The pass rush has to do everything, and they can only do so much. And that's just the tragedy. I know it's not perfect, but it can be better. But at least some portion of that defensive unit decides not to, and that's what's troubling me. The pass rush can make any opposing quarterback scramble if they can't sack them. But even any opposing quarterback can still find its receiver wide open even under duress. I know there will be sacks, but not all the time. That's where you hope. That's where at least you hope for the Lions, particularly with the way they have no secondary defense whatsoever. You can only hope the opposing receiver drops the ball when it's wide open and the pass comes to him. That's it. But the Red Wings, Michigan's on the right track, of course. They'll just have to earn it against Georgia and this and that. Whoever they play in the semifinal, they better win, of course. Win at least one bowl game, please. The Red Wings, though, they're still in the playoff picture. The Pistons are dead to me. The Tigers, they're making a little bit of progress with Kenta Maeda with its veteran presence. Hopefully that makes a little bit even more progress a bit later on. And with the Spartans, they did make the right hire indeed, Jonathan Smith. And let's hope I can only hope he's not a troublemaker off the field. I believe he's a good guy, unless I'm proven wrong. So that's all of what we've learned on this episode of the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. I'm Taylor Phillips. He's Ed Smith. Follow the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. Also on Threads at Michigan_Truth, and like its Facebook page. Subscribe to its YouTube channel at the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast. Like our videos and turn on all notifications on the bell icon. Follow it and listen to it in audio form on Spreaker. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram at DT2Phillips, and on YouTube, the same handle at DT2Phillips. Follow Ed Smith on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube at EdSmith313. Business shout-outs go to Athletico Physical Therapy on Woodward and Ferndale, the B4 Foundation, Cali Tickets. Call Mark Goldman at 877-225-8425 or visit CaliTickets.com. Creative Embroidery of Cadillac for designing the Michigan Sports Truth Podcast logo on my long sleeve shirt and t-shirt. Cuts by Melanie in Lake City. Let's roll with it. Rolled ice cream in Cadillac. Follow them on TikTok at the Food Mafia LLC and on Instagram at the Food Mafia Rolled Ice Cream. Northern Star Event Rentals in Cadillac, 231-884-8195, and on Facebook. Burke's Waterfront for liking our episodes and reels on Instagram. And United Food Service Solutions of Grand Ledge, Michigan. Until next week, for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. We'll talk to you next week. And remember, we observe and detect the truth about Michigan sports. Stay on the lookout and stay aware, everyone.
Take care. Be safe, y'all. Go Blue.
Ta-ta.